Hi everyone, my name is Jerome Cabeen. I am the author of a recently published book named Memoirs of a Reluctant Servant, 2 Years of Triumph and Sorrow in Liberia, Africa. I served as a missionary in Liberia from 2008 until 2010, and it became quickly apparent that this book was going to become a reality because of my experiences that I encountered on a day-to-day basis while living in the country. I served some incredible children at a wonderful mission named Liberia Mission Incorporated, and I was able to meet some incredible individuals while living in Liberia. People that have seen far more horrible and catastrophic events and have encountered far more catastrophic events than many of us will ever be able to fathom. And these people fight every day. They fight for survival, and they fight to make their country a little bit better than what it was left in 2003 when the Second Civil War ended and Charles Taylor, the warlord of warlords, fled the country. It was an incredibly grueling 2 years. I had served in Honduras, Central America, 4 years prior to my arrival in Liberia. I spent 2004 through 2008 doing missionary work in Honduras, and I thought it would in some way prepare me for what I would face in Liberia. But any of you who have been to West Africa and any of you who have been to Liberia already know that there's no way that anything could prepare you for an experience like Liberia has to offer. It's something that you just have to really throw yourself into, and you either swim or you sink. And thankfully, through God's grace, because of my beautiful wife Clarissa and 350 incredible children that I got to live with and serve every day for 2 years, I swam. And the waters were rough and challenging, and at times I didn't want to continue, but I got through it, and this book has been one of the saving graces of that experience. And it is available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And there's also a website that I built for the book, www.readreluctantservant.com, and I encourage you to visit that website often. And I encourage you to visit the Facebook page that I have constructed for the book as well. This is the cover of the book right here. And as you can see, it has some of the children from our mission on the cover, as well as the Liberian flag. And the actual Liberian flag that appears on the cover of the book is sitting behind me right now. You can see the vertical red and white stripes. That is the actual flag that appears on the cover of the book. I'm going to take a few minutes now, and I would like to read you an excerpt from chapter 1, which is entitled Little Generals. And this was a chapter that was written and inspired by an encounter that I had with 5 ex-child soldiers that are homeless, and they live on the streets of downtown Monrovia, and they basically beg and hustle every day of their lives. They hustle for work, and they beg for food and money just to survive. And over time, over those 2 years, I got to know these young men well, who are now in their 20s and 30s. But the chapter, Little Generals, recounts my first initial experience with these young men, and it was absolutely harrowing. I was left physically, emotionally, and spiritually drained after meeting these 5 on Randall Street in Monrovia. And it's obvious that people never really gave them the time of day, and it was obvious that Many of the foreigners that were living in Liberia at the time uh, were not really looking at these young men as humans. They were looking at them as refuse or something less than human. And you know, every one of them had something in common besides being homeless and an ex-child soldier. All of them were missing a leg or other body parts, and all of them had uh, a look in their eyes and in their face that said that they had lived 1,000 lifetimes and had mourned each one of them bitterly. So I'd like to read you right now a little excerpt from the first chapter, Little Generals. And I would encourage you to visit the website again, www.readreluctantservant.com, for more information on the book. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it has the same impact on you that it has had on me and the thousands of people who have already bought a copy of the book. So thank you for your time, and I'd like to begin reading. As they told their stories, their voices rose and ebbed in a crescendo of confessionary fervor. They developed a rhythmic syncopation to their delivery. Their interruptions had stopped, but each young man was obviously eager to get his chance to speak. I asked our friend in the Oakland A's hat about his name, Little General. He said, "My man, we had guns, drugs, sex, and death all before we turned 16. The first time I killed somebody, one of my officers said I carried my rifle like a little general, and the name stuck. But for true, we were all little generals." Throughout the civil conflicts that plagued Liberia, the children, some as young as 8, were seen as an expendable commodity. The now deposed President Charles Taylor had used thousands of children during his invasion of Liberia in 1989, and again in its defense as rebels closed in around him in 2003. Sadly, the use of child soldiers wasn't relegated only to Taylor's army. Rebel factions that roamed the hills and grasslands of Liberia were inundated with child soldiers. Liberia had become a killing field, and children were the ones doing the killing. Some of those child soldiers now stood directly in front of me, filthy and forlorn. Ahead of them lay hopeless lives of begging to survive with incomplete bodies. It made me wonder if their survival had been a blessing or a curse. I had come to Liberia to work with children who were orphaned or displaced because of the war. I thought I was prepared for what I would meet here. Yet, when everywhere I turned I met people eager to share their horrific stories, I realized nothing could have prepared me for this. Their broken bodies bore evidence of their participation in a horrific war. Still, what I saw before me were human beings, not killers. They were homeless, but they were also temples of the Holy Spirit. They were filthy, and they reeked almost as much as the open sewage canal that had stifled my breath only a few minutes before. Still, what I saw were brothers in need of cleaning. They smiled and they laughed, but what I saw was an infinite sadness. One young man, tough trigger master, stretched out his hands wide, letting both crutches fall to the ground as the young men on either side supported him. He described how a rifle-propelled grenade blew his left leg off. He spoke of the agony of losing his leg and the majority of his left buttock to the explosion. As he stretched out his arms, I no longer saw a tough trigger master, but Jesus looking at me through the eyes of one of his wounded children. As I said, this was a very emotional encounter that I had with these 5 young men, and it happened in November of 2008, And it was actually the spark that really got me interested in starting to record some of these encounters that I had. The book, Memoirs of a Reluctant Servant, covers the entirety of my time in Liberia, 2008 until I left last June of 2010. And it's a tribute to the incredible children of Liberia Mission Incorporated. Some of those that you see right here on the cover have been through things we could never imagine. They've seen loved ones killed. They've been put to the gun themselves. And yet somehow they have survived. And somehow they continue to fight against long odds every day for survival. So I encourage you, humbly, to consider buying a copy of the book and finding out about these incredible children of Liberia Mission Incorporated, as well finding out and discovering more about an incredible country that many of us in the world know nothing about. It's a country that we call Liberia. Thank you for your time, and I hope you visit the website, and I wish God's blessings upon you.